Hi, it's your old friend, Geri Atrik. I'm going to tell you about a fishing trip I took with my grandfather in 1947. Um, he, every spring, took a week or 10 days off to go fishing, mostly in Canada, but this year we were going to Moosehead Lake in Maine. And Moosehead is the largest lake in Maine. It's I've forgotten how many miles long, but it's a big lake. And we stayed at a patient of my grandfather's. He had a fishing uh, camp there, and in other words, where he rented the cabins and they had a dining room, et cetera, et cetera. His name was George Tyson, and there were probably 12 of us in the group. There were, other doctors, guy that owned the funeral home, and a couple of attorneys. But anyway, it was a very nice group. I was by far the youngest. I was, I think, 19. And anyway, we arrived there, and the only way you could get to this camp was by boat. And so we parked our cars at near the near the water, and we were picked up by George Tyson and his cruiser. And the next morning, we started to go on our fishing expeditions, which comprised a large boat in which we would tow the canoes, and we had a guide for each boat, so that there'd be uh, two sportsmen and a guide in a canoe, and we would go to a certain part of the lake where the guys thought we would, have a big day. Well, I can't remember whether we caught any fish or not, but if we did, it wasn't that many. But we would troll, all morning long after we got there, and the guide would paddle us. And but at lunchtime, we would go to an area that was picked by the guides, and they would set up, tables and exotic luncheons, lamb chops or no fish because we didn't catch any. But anyway, we did that for I think it was a week, and the biggest fish that was caught by me one morning when I was practicing my fly fishing to see how far I could cast a fly, and hooked into a good sized lake trout. And no net or anything. I didn't expect to catch anything, so I was screaming for the other members of the group, and they came out with a net, and we netted it. But anyway, across from this fishing camp was a place called Mount Kineo, and that's and it seen better days. I mean, there have been one of those tremendous, um, wooden hotels there. I mean, I don't know how many rooms they had, but five or 600 rooms, and it had been burned like I don't know 3 times, rebuilt, and the last one there that during the Depression, I mean, people were going up there. So they had sold to somebody with the idea that they had to tear it down. And in tearing it down, it caught on fire again. And that was in 1938. So when we were there was remnants of what had been there. But it was just a beautiful, it was an island, with this tremendous granite mountain on it that came right down to the water. And evidently the Indians all came there, the different tribes at different times of the year, because there was a lot of flint in the rock, so that they would come and get things for their arrowheads and so forth. And also, in those days, it was, logging the river, uh, log transporting them down the river was still a big thing. And so the rivers that flowed into Moosehead, um, the logs would come down, and once they got to the lake, they would put them in what they called a log boom, which was logs that were all tied together in like a great circle or something. And the logs would be contained in there by uh, the interlocking of the boom. And they had these giant tugboats that would drag the log boom down to Greenville, Maine, where there was I don't know whether it was a pulp mill or just a lumber mill, but they would go down there and then go on to railroad cars or whatever. Uh, but and the other thing is from our place where we were staying, you could see Mount Katahdin, which is where every morning that's where the sun first hits the United States on Mount Katahdin. And what else can I think of there? Oh, I know, there's a funny story. One night after dinner, we went over, they took us by boat over to where our cars were, and we drove to, I think it was Jackman, Maine. Uh, and in those days, you could have, there were various liquor laws. There could be a dry town, and then there'd be a wet town. Well, anyway, we went to Jackman because there was a general store there that had fishing equipment and so forth. And there were other, stores there. And I noticed all these people going into the general store where they had the fishing equipment and so forth. And then you'd look in there and there wasn't anybody in there. So I finally went in there, and there was a door on the back, and it turns out that this was a dry town. But there was a door in the back, and you opened the door, and there was this room that was bigger than the store, and that was where they they served liquor, and that's where all the people I was with were. In other words, they'd already found out that this was a secret place. So, and I never went back to Moosehead Lake. I'd like to do that someday to see whether it's changed, because it was very, very rural at that time. So that's my story for today. Bye bye.